Do you ever scroll through Instagram, see someone speaking at a virtual summit, and think, how do I get on that digital stage?
You're out here with solid strategies, killer offers, and a business you've been nurturing for years, and yet visibility can feel like you're screaming into the void.
Today, we're breaking down why saying yes to speaking at a virtual summit can grow your email list, expand your audience, and make your next launch more successful.
Being an online business owner is full of ups and downs. Some days you can't imagine going back to your 9 to 5, and other days you want to burn your whole business to the ground. We get it.
Welcome to Chaos to Conversions, a podcast of practical, no BS strategies to grow your online business. Each week, we're chatting about launching, copywriting, mindset, and more, so you can make sense of the chaos and do more of what works.
Join the conversation and let's grow together. Hi, welcome back to Chaos to Conversions. Today, we are going to talk all about virtual summits, why they work, how you can choose them strategically, how they can help with your launch, all that kinds of good stuff. So most of you probably already know this, but just in case some of you are a little bit newer to the concept of virtual summits, it's usually something where you can either do a pre-recorded video presentation with, like slides and you're talking about a topic, or I think probably Brandon and I's personal favorite type of
Yeah.
summits that I just participated in one back in April, the type where it's actually more like an audio only or a podcast interview style, which is what the one in April was. People, I think, are getting like really creative with summits because sometimes you can just, record the audio. Sometimes it's a recorded video with slides. And then the one I did in April was actually like a podcast style interview, which was maybe a little bit more cumbersome because we had to link up times, but overall, like I just showed up and she asked me questions and there was very little preparation on my part besides giving her the topic and a couple different things. So there's a bunch of different formats out there. And then usually how they work is people can sign up through whoever is hosting the summit. We're not going to get into hosting right now. That would be like a whole nother podcast series, probably. Branda's written a lot of copy for people who have hosted summits, and a lot of my online business manager retainer clients have hosted summits. But we're not talking about from the vantage of like if you're hosting it, this is participation. So usually people sign up, access your presentation, whatever format they might be, and then you'll be able to include sometimes a paid offer pitch in your summit, presentation, or sometimes a freebie or an opt-in where people can join your list. So these can work like super well as visibility builders, and also I would say like authority builders in your niche, because sometimes, I think probably some people, what do you think about this, Branda? I think some people accept everyone who applies, but like I know for sure some people don't because I've been rejected before. What do you like? Do you think people mostly accept everybody?
I think it depends. I've definitely feel like most of them that I have applied to, usually they accept kind of whoever
Hmm.
comes in. But there are some people who are very picky. Like I've seen some where they're like, it's only 5 to 10 people in the whole
Yeah.
summit. So, which is kind of nice, but I think it's harder when you're like a smaller brand like
Right, right.
I am to get into some of those things because I don't have like as big of an audience. But it's nice because you can kind of like benefit off of other people, right? So I do think that
Mhm.
that is kind of the nice part about being part of a larger summit is that you're in a mix of people who hopefully they do share the same audience of you as you. I think that's something that it's like important to note. You probably don't want to get into a summit that's like, I don't know, speaking to people in like software and you like work with service providers, right? So like that's really important to make sure the audiences align. But it is nice when there's like different levels of business owners who
Hmm.
have different years of experience and different trust in their brand. Like you said, it's a very good authority builder. That when people see you in the lineup and they're listening to your stuff, even if they're brand new to you, there is just a lot of trust there that they're getting to hear kind of your expertise. So, yeah, I think my kind of big thing with summits, I like. I actually did probably one of the best ones I did recently was it was all through Voxer. So I didn't even have to
Hmm.
like link up a time with her. She would just, I think she was like in Australia or something. So she would send me a voice message and I would send one back and she like pasted all of the audio together. It was like so easy to do. And it was like these little bite size kind of audio, I don't know, audio summit kind of thing.
That's a
Um,
fun idea.
yeah, it was actually really, really cool and such an easy way to do it. But definitely, even in something as simple as that, summits do really take a lot of time. So, highly recommend not doing summits back to back as much as possible. I know we have two summits coming up recently that are back to back, but the due dates are very different. And so that kind of helps separate it up a bit. But they do, they're great authority builders. They are going to take you time to do, though, especially if they require video with slides. Um, I personally loathe creating slides. I feel like we talk about this all the time,
We do. We
texting
really
back
do.
and forth to each other. We're like, the worst part of all of this is the slides. So, anyways, that's just kind of our word to the wise on that one.
Yeah. And the other thing to think about with having back to back summits, and even though the two that like we are participating in June are fairly different not like totally different audiences, but like one is very specifically for teacher business owners and
Mhm.
then one is much more broad. You also want to be mindful of your email list, right?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes like summits are going to have like promotional requirements. And if you don't have your list segmented, which I started segmenting out people who I know are like teacher business owners, like if they came in through my specific TPT freebie, they're like in a different tag in a different segment. But my list is about 50-50. So I wouldn't send people to the Teacher Seller Summit who, are definitely not teacher business owners because that's very targeted. So that's just like something to think about. But I probably would send them the other one that we're both participating in, the Motherhood Summit, because some of them also might be moms. So like they might benefit from both. But just like one more thing to think about when you're talking about taking summits back to back. So summits can be great anytime. It doesn't necessarily matter if you're leading up to something that you're launching or promoting. But of course, since it is a great way to grow your visibility and get in front of a new audience, as well as build your authority and have, more people put a greater deal of trust in you, it can be an amazing opportunity to do a summit or participate in a summit before you launch something if you're promoting a course or a membership or a group program or something like that. If possible, and it's definitely not always possible, right? It's like when you're trying to do a podcast visibility tour, for example, ahead of a launch, it's great if like all of your podcast episodes, your guest episodes can drop, 6 weeks before you launch your offer. That's ideal. It's not always possible. But if it is possible, about 4 to 6 weeks ahead of time would be a great time for the summit to go live because then you'll be able to funnel all of these new people through a welcome sequence, which Brandon will talk a little bit more about, and then get them really warmed up by the time that you launch your paid offer. The other thing you want to really make sure that you're doing, and this, I don't know, for me, took a lot of practice. I feel like I've been participating in summits for a really long time because when you first start and you first start your email list, you're like, oh, this is a great way. And like, I'm going to do a million of them. I think Branda did the same thing,
Yeah.
but I didn't always consider like what exactly my summit presentation topics, whether it's video or audio or whatever, I didn't really consider what they should be. But now that I'm mainly talking about launching and helping people to improve their launches with the Launch Reno, for example, in the two summits that are coming up that I'm participating in June, in one of them, I'm talking about how to choose a launch strategy that aligns with your personality, how to know which one aligns with your personality, because that is like directly from one of the phases that we go through in the launch reno. Like, I'm not giving the whole kit and caboodle away, but I mean, I am giving a piece that they could walk away chewing on what type of launch strategy they might want to try next. And then in the other one, I'm talking all about launch mindset tips, which is definitely something that I run into a lot. And I'm seeing even in this live round right now with the launch reno. Like it's a pretty hard thing to overcome with your launch mindset. Like just little like tips and things they can do that, again, I'm not giving away the whole farm, but people will definitely be able to walk away thinking about, a couple quick tips to improve their mindset. And you also want to make sure that with whatever topic you're giving as a presentation, you want to make sure that if you're providing a free opt-in, that is also like in alignment with your main topic. So just thinking about your offer and then paring it down. Remind me, Brandon, what are you talking about in the two summits we have coming up?
Yeah, so I have two topics I've been kind of rotating through because they very much either align with the membership, the Copy Huddle, or with just some of my like paid, copy services. Not that I do unpaid copy services, like pro bono copy services. Um, but anyways, with some things like the welcome sequences that I write for clients and, retainers and all that. So what I kind of have been using as my topics, one of them is really what someone needs to know before they or kind of have in their business before they work with me, which is some sort of email plan. Um, that's just in order for them to be able to, right, probably pay for a copywriter, they need to be have a plan for their emails, probably be fairly consistent with their emails, or at least be trying to kind of start that process.
Mhm.
So I help them plan 30 days of email content and one of the summits. And then in the other one, I'm talking about creating hyper specific welcome sequences. And that kind of is more about like my philosophy and thought process and um, strategy behind welcome sequences, really. So it's kind of giving them a peek behind the scenes on what I'm doing with clients, but I'm showing them kind of how they could do it if they want to do it themselves. Um, but, kind of giving them also a taste of like what my clients have experienced and kind of the expertise I bring to the table. So it's a bit of a teaser into, my paid services.
Hmm. It's just really important. And I feel like I was just thinking about like summits gone by, and I used to talk about like hiring a lot and
Yeah.
like growing your team, which makes sense, but I also like wasn't taking on any new retainer clients and I didn't really like my hiring service. So like what was I doing? Anyway, it's much better now, but just something to think about is what do you ultimately want these people to eventually hopefully pay you for when they, get into your world and decide to work with you.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll kind of talk about this more in a second. I know you mentioned having opt-ins, obviously, for each of these that are aligned. That's definitely something I considered when I was creating my topics too, because I did not have time to
Hmm.
create new opt-ins. So I was like, what do I already have and what's going to match well with that? So something you can think about if you're listening to this, trying to brainstorm some topics. Other things to think about are, you definitely want to have welcome sequences on the back end attached to these opt-ins. So also consider like what email sequences do you already have running that you can customize, because I do recommend having them like somewhat customized to the actual summit. And again, I'll
Hmm.
talk more in a second about what that could look like. It doesn't need to be like you rewriting a whole sequence for this, but I've been kind of including like a little sentence at the top that's like, you're getting this email because you signed up for this lead magnet from this summit, because they're signing up for a ton of lead magnets likely.
Yeah.
If they're in a summit, they're hearing from a ton of different people. So you do have to kind of keep reminding them of like who you are, why you're in their inbox. And I also include at the bottom of those welcome sequence emails, which I don't typically include in my welcome sequence emails, but I do for summits, is like a little box saying like who I am. It's at the very bottom of the email. It's like, hey, I'm Branda. And then it's like a little paragraph about me. So that's again kind of just a way to remind them as they're getting tons of different emails in their inbox that you're not just like some random, you didn't steal their email address. They did sign up to be there. You're not spam kind of ordeal. Okay, so kind of piggybacking off of that, what should you do like once the summit is over and you've collected some people into your audience and on your email list and all these kinds of things, kind of what should we do next? So obviously you don't want to leave people hanging. The worst thing that you could do is just be like, all right, peace. And like you never send a welcome sequence, you never have any emails consistently going out. That's great that they were introduced to you during the summit, but they're very easily going to forget that you exist if you're just not showing up, um, on social media, in your email list, wherever you have sent them to connect with you further. Um, And so, like I mentioned, I do recommend having a welcome sequence that goes after. I use a welcome sequence that I already have for the lead magnet, and I adjust it, as I mentioned, kind of adding that sentence and a little intro about me. And I also will adapt the sequence a little bit to the summit if needed. So, for example, and I know Melanie will probably touch more about this on a second, because I know this is something she's been talking to her members about and the launch reno, but I will adjust the offer inside of there. So if I know in June that I'm going to be, launching, the copy huddle is always open, but if I plan to do like a big launch or something like that, I might include some information about that. I also include like a coupon specifically for people who are going through that sequence that I don't have normally in my welcome sequence. And I might have like a special coupon code that expires at a specific time for people who are in that summit just to add a bit of urgency. So there are different ways that you can move them right from being first introduced to you to kind of being a paid customer. And so you just kind of have to, again, think about what offer is appropriate to put in there. Is it maybe appropriate to ask them to spend like $10,000 on like a group program? I don't know, probably not. That would be my personal opinion. But maybe you have some lower tier offer or something that's a bit more affordable, a nice, easy place for them to jump in to get to know you. That, yeah, you do want to include in your welcome sequence. We don't want to like just be like, hey, hello, and drop out. So typically in a welcome sequence, we're including like, the freebie download, a quick win, maybe some free content like where they can find you, like blogs, podcast, and addressing some sort of objections. And then obviously getting into the offer. That's like the important piece. We're essentially using this welcome sequence to move them from getting to know you to becoming a paying customer in some way or degree, right?
Yeah, that's the whole idea. And everything, I mean, everything that Branda just said, and I was just talking about this with somebody like specifically, and she's launching her membership before the summit that she's participating in July. And her membership is also ever enrolling, but to create some urgency with her launch event, we're going to do like a sales special with, some bonuses, some other things to hopefully get people to join at that time. And she was like, well, but like I might get all these new people for the summit. And I was like, yeah, just make them a coupon code or make them have the same bonuses and only put it in their welcome sequence. Like you can do that. Remember, you're the boss of your business. And if these people are new to you and you want to offer them that sales special to come into your membership a week after like your cart closes, I mean, don't talk about it on social media or anything, but it's only those people coming in getting that special. That's totally fine. That's a great incentive. Something else I like to do is to, if you're able to, and it's not that hard, is to duplicate whatever form you're using. So like if you're having people come in through like ConvertKit or Flowdesk or my opt-ins now are actually all like in Thrivecart, I just duplicate it and then write a note and then I can see exactly how many people come in from each particular like summit or event. And then you can also kind of gauge next year, like, was it worth it? Do I want to do this again? Did I actually get a lot of leads from this particular summit?
Yeah, I definitely did not do that in the past, but I did start doing that this year. It's been really interesting to see like
Yeah,
which ones have done well and which ones haven't from summits bundles, all these like different things I've been
sure.
trying out this year. But like I mean, I mentioned this in a podcast recently. It was episode 64. I talked about like using bundles to grow your list. And I had one bundle that brought in like almost, I think, over 300 people,
Wow.
which was like amazing. And I was like, definitely would be doing that again next year.
Yeah, right. And
Um,
that's good to know.
yeah, exactly. So whereas I've had others that brought in like 25, and not saying that those weren't worth it, like 25 people, great. 25 people, new people on my list. But if I go in and I see, oh, I have 25 people and all of them have unsubscribed, they haven't opened any emails, like those are also the things you want to check for when you're looking at that data later to see, are they actually even like healthy, engaged subscribers? So
Yeah. And I mean, if you try and do a bunch, they can all blend together. But like that 300-person one, I mean, you remember when it was, you're going to put a big old fat star on your calendar. Like, look for applications for this
yeah,
one when it comes out next year. Because if they're all just kind of like, then I mean, you might they all blend together. You know what I mean? So you have to
yeah,
definitely take note and take data of what's working, what's not.
definitely.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We talked all about why being a virtual summit participant can be super helpful in growing your authority and visibility before you launch, or honestly, any other time too.
When being a summit participant, don't forget to make sure that your presentation and free resources are aligned with your paid offer. And be sure you're also including a welcome sequence so that your new audience members get to know you before diving into your regularly scheduled content and hopefully even become some paying customers. If you also want to join Melanie and I this summer at the Thriving Through Motherhood or Teacher Seller Summit, we'll have links in the description so you can grab a ticket. Thanks so much for joining our conversation today. If you enjoyed this episode, please head to your listening app and leave a quick rating and review.
If you're on Instagram, share this episode and tag us at Duxbury Digital and at The Relevant Collective. We'd love to hear from you. We'll meet you back here next Tuesday for more practical strategies to take your business from chaos to conversions.